Walk into any motorcycle dealership right now and ask the sales manager what they think about 2027. Watch their face change. Dealerships make their real money in two places: convincing new riders to finance bigger, more expensive bikes than they actually need, and keeping those same riders coming back to the service department for years afterward. The 2027 lineup puts genuine pressure on both of those revenue streams at the same time. We are talking about budget adventure bikes capable enough that riders never feel the need to upgrade. Electric platforms that quietly remove the service department from the equation entirely, and manufacturers from outside the traditional hierarchy, delivering specifications that established brands simply cannot match at the same price point. Today we break down 14 motorcycles confirmed or leaked for 2027 that are making dealer networks genuinely uncomfortable, and more importantly, the actual data and reasoning behind why each one matters. Let's get into it. If you want honest motorcycle breakdowns backed by real specifications, not dealership marketing, hit subscribe right now. Let's go. Number 14. Triumph Tiger 400. For years, dealerships have relied on a fairly predictable sales pattern. A new rider walks in wanting something capable, and the salesperson steers them toward an 800cc adventure bike instead of something smaller. The profit margin on those heavier middleweights is what pays the dealership's rent. The Tiger 400 disrupts that pattern directly. It uses Triumph's proven 398cc single-cylinder engine, shared with the Speed 400, producing 40 horsepower and 28 pound-feet of torque. Triumph packed that engine into a genuinely tall, capable adventure chassis, featuring 9 inches of suspension travel and a 21-inch front wheel proportions that wouldn't look out of place on a much larger machine. Here is why this makes sales managers nervous. When a new rider test rides the Tiger 400, they get the premium European badge, real suspension travel, and genuine off-road capability, all without the financial weight of a $15,000 loan. The upgrade conversation that dealerships depend on simply doesn't happen. The finance manager loses the interest revenue. The service department loses the premium labor rates that come with servicing a bigger, more complex machine. One well-priced bike quietly breaks an entire revenue chain, and Triumph didn't have to compromise on suspension quality or badge prestige to make it happen. Number 13. Can-Am Origin Electric. The real secret to long-term dealership profitability isn't the bike sale itself, it's the service department. Dealers often sell a motorcycle at a thin margin, knowing the owner will return every season for oil changes, valve clearance checks, and chain replacements that add up significantly over the life of the bike. The Can-Am Origin removes that entire revenue model. Can-Am is returning to its two-wheeled roots with a full-size electric dual sport, featuring a battery pack integrated directly into the chassis and a liquid-cooled electric motor producing instant, silent torque from a standstill. This machine makes dealers nervous because it requires essentially zero mechanical maintenance. The drive system uses an enclosed, oil-bathed chain, no exposed chain to clean or adjust. There are no spark plugs to replace and no clutch back to wear out on technical terrain. You plug it in at home, unplug it, and ride. The service manager loses thousands of dollars in recurring maintenance revenue over the life of the bike. Every electric motorcycle sold represents a customer the service bay may never see again, and across an entire dealership network. That adds up to a serious structural threat rather than a minor inconvenience. Number 12. Cove 800X Rally. Japanese manufacturers built strong reputations selling reliable middleweight adventure bikes like the Yamaha TNR 700, and in doing so, effectively set the price floor for what genuine off-road competence should cost. In 2027, Chinese manufacturer Cove is challenging that price floor directly with the 800X Rally. This is an aggressive, uncompromising, dirt-focused machine built around a 799cc parallel twin engine producing 95 horsepower. But the specification that genuinely concerns established brands is the weight. The 800X Rally comes in at roughly 394 pounds wet, about 40 pounds lighter than comparable Japanese competition, while producing 20 more horsepower. Cove achieved that through a magnesium engine cover, an aluminum frame, and a low-slung fuel tank that keeps the center of gravity close to the ground. This bike concerns dealers because it directly exposes years of incremental, cautious development from legacy brands. When a newer manufacturer delivers a lighter, faster, more capable rally machine for thousands less, the salesperson loses the ability to justify the premium price tag purely on capability. The spec sheet makes the argument before the conversation even starts, and that's a difficult position for any showroom to be in. Number 11. Honda CB1000 Hornet. European dealerships have built much of their margin selling high-performance hyper-naked motorcycles. If you want 150 horsepower in a naked bike, the expectation has typically been a $20,000 price tag from an Italian or Austrian manufacturer. Honda is preparing to challenge that expectation directly with the 2027 CB1000 Hornet. Honda took the legendary inline-4 engine from the CBR 1000RR Fireblade, retuned it for stronger mid-range torque, and built it into a minimalist, stripped-down steel frame. The result produces over 150 horsepower, placing it firmly in hyper-naked territory. The pressure on European dealerships centers on the rumored pricing. Honda appears to be positioning the CB1000 Hornet as a genuinely budget-conscious entry into the segment, undercutting established hyper-naked competitors by a meaningful margin. The comparison becomes difficult to avoid comparable performance, Honda's well-established reliability reputation, and a significantly lower purchase price changes the calculation for buyers who previously defaulted to a European exotic almost automatically. Number 10. Royal Enfield Bear 650. The Heritage Scrambler segment has historically been a high-margin lifestyle category. Brands like Ducati and Triumph have done well selling classic-styled machines to urban riders who are willing to pay a real premium for vintage aesthetics done properly. Royal Enfield's 2027 Bear 650 takes direct aim at that demographic. It uses Royal Enfield's proven 648cc air-cooled parallel twin engine, producing 47 horsepower, wrapped in genuinely authentic Scrambler bodywork wire, spoke wheels, high-mounted exhaust pipes, and a ribbed bench seat that looks the part without feeling like a costume. This machine creates real pressure for premium dealers because it delivers a comparable vintage aesthetic for roughly half the price of a European Scrambler. Most buyers in this segment aren't chasing lap times or electronic suspension. They want something that looks right parked outside a coffee shop and handles a dirt fire road comfortably on a Sunday. Royal Enfield delivers exactly that experience at a significantly lower price, which raises a fair question for the segment as a whole. How much of that European premium was always about engineering versus simply geography and badge? Number 9. Livewire S2. Traditional cruiser dealerships, with Harley-Davidson at the center of that world, sell heavy V twin machines to a demographic that has historically valued the sound and ritual of the exhaust as much as the ride itself. The 2027 Livewire S2 approaches that market from a completely different direction. Livewire operates as Harley's independent electric brand, and the S2 uses the company's scalable aero architecture, integrating the battery directly into the frame as a structural, load-bearing component. That reduces weight significantly and delivers instant, silent, linear torque that simply outperforms a heavy gasoline cruiser off the line. Traditional dealers have reason to watch this carefully. The S2 appeals to a younger generation of riders who have little interest in a 900-pound gasoline bagger, and who generally aren't drawn in by chrome or decades of heritage marketing. On top of that, the S2 requires no oil changes, no primary fluid swaps, and no belt adjustments, removing both the maintenance revenue and a meaningful piece of the cultural connection that has kept the traditional cruiser dealership model intact. Every sale represents a rider who may be permanently outside that ecosystem going forward, which over time points toward a generational shift that's difficult for any single dealership to counter. Number 8. Moto 1000 SR V4. For most of the last 2 decades, Owning a V4 superbike has meant walking into an Italian dealership and accepting a price tag north of $30,000. The V4 configuration has effectively functioned as a status marker, reserved for buyers willing to pay a significant premium. In 2027, CF Moto is bringing a 209 horsepower V4 superbike to the global market at a fraction of that cost. Spy shots reveal carbon fiber winglets, a single-sided swing arm, and premium Hlins suspension components, the kind of detailing typically associated with much more expensive machines. CF Moto appears to be building a genuinely track-capable superbike rather than a budget imitation. The real concern for established brands centers on pricing. Chinese manufacturers generally operate on considerably thinner margins, and if CF Moto can deliver a 209 horsepower track-ready machine for $10,000 less than an equivalent Aprilia or Ducati, the long-standing argument that premium V4 performance requires a premium European price becomes much harder to defend. Performance has historically been one of the strongest justifications for that price gap, and a competitive lap time from a significantly cheaper machine puts real pressure on that argument. Number 7. Suzuki DR-Z4S. For more than 20 years, Suzuki sold the DR-Z400, largely unchanged, a reliable but increasingly dated carbureted dual sport. Because Suzuki never meaningfully updated it, the used market for the DR-Z400 became surprisingly lucrative, with buyers paying strong prices simply because no modern direct alternative existed. The 2027 Suzuki DR-Z4S changes that equation completely. Suzuki finally modernized the platform with a redesigned 398cc liquid-cooled single-cylinder engine featuring proper fuel injection, paired with a new twin-spar steel frame, fully adjustable Cove suspension, and switchable ABS. This refresh creates real consequences for the used market specifically. Dealers and private sellers holding older carbureted Doctors models are likely to see used values decline. Once the fuel-injected version becomes available, it becomes difficult to justify a comparable price for a 20-year-old carbureted design once a modern, fuel-injected version exists at a similar entry point. It's a useful reminder that a single well-executed update can affect resale value well beyond the new bike itself. We are halfway through the list. If this breakdown is giving you a clearer picture of where 2027 is headed, hit the like button and subscribe. Let's keep going. Number 6. BMW F450 GS. BMW Motorrad built much of its modern reputation on the large, heavy 1300cc GS adventure platform flagship machines priced above $25,000 that generate strong margins for the brand and its dealer network. In 2027, BMW is introducing the F450 GS, and it creates an interesting internal dynamic. The F450 GS uses a brand new parallel twin engine producing 48 horsepower, built around a lightweight tubular steel frame with rally-style suspension and BMW's recognizable asymmetric styling. It looks like a genuine Dakar-inspired rally machine while weighing under 400 pounds. The reason a comparatively affordable BMW creates some internal tension is straightforward. Large adventure flagships are genuinely difficult to manage in deep mud or heavy sand simply due to their weight. When riders test both machines side by side, many will find the lighter F450 GS noticeably easier to control on technical terrain. Some buyers who would have previously financed the larger flagship may reasonably choose the lighter, less expensive option instead. In effect, BMW's own lineup creates internal competition. Historically, the most effective challenger to a premium flagship is often the manufacturer's own more accessible alternative, once it's genuinely competitive on capability. Number 5. Yamaha YZF R9. The 600cc inline-4 supersport class has effectively ended. Tightening emissions regulations and rising production costs led to the discontinuation of the legendary Yamaha R6, taking with it a category that dealerships relied on heavily for track day enthusiasts. In 2027, Yamaha is replacing it with the YZF R9. Rather than an inline-4, the R9 uses the 890cc CP3 inline triple engine shared with the MT-09, producing 117 horsepower along with strong low-end torque, built into a rigid delta box frame with genuinely aggressive supersport aerodynamics. The challenge here is less about specifications and more about rider expectations. Track-focused riders have long favored the high RPM character and sound of an inline-4 engine, and convincing that audience that a torque-focused triple is a legitimate track tool will take some doing. If that transition doesn't land well with the existing fan base, Yamaha risks losing ground in the middleweight track segment to competitors like Aprilia and Triumph, who continue to offer different engine architectures in this space. Number 4. QJ Motor Cirque 1000 RC European sport bikes have historically sold on more than raw performance alone. A meaningful part of the price reflects sculpted Italian design language and decades of racing pedigree. In 2027, the QJ Motor Cirque 1000 RC challenges that pricing logic directly. QJ Motor, a large Chinese manufacturing group, partnered directly with MV Agusta's engineering team to develop the Cirque 1000 RC. It features a 1078cc inline-4, producing 144 horsepower, a single-sided swing arm, dual center exit exhaust, Marzocchi suspension, and Brembo brakes. Visually, it reads as a premium Italian exotic. What makes this particularly notable for established European dealerships is the origin story behind the bike. QJ Motor isn't simply copying Italian design language from a distance, they're working with the actual engineers responsible for that design language, and offering the resulting motorcycle at a meaningfully lower price. It raises a genuinely interesting question for the segment. How much of that premium price tag was always tied to the engineering itself versus simply where that engineering happened to be built? Number 3. KTM 990 Adventure. KTM built its modern reputation on massive, genuinely capable 1290 Super Adventure machines, flagship models that command premium pricing across the lineup. In 2027, KTM is launching the 990 Adventure, and it creates a similar internal dynamic to BMW's situation. The 990 uses the LC8C parallel twin engine, bored out for noticeably stronger torque, paired with a completely redesigned chassis featuring narrower fuel tanks and significantly increased ground clearance. Spy shots reveal an aggressive rally-style fairing and substantial WP Pro suspension components. The reason this middleweight makes dealers nervous is simply that it's genuinely good. The 990 Adventure offers more than enough power for comfortable highway touring, while remaining considerably lighter and more agile than the larger leader-class flagships once the terrain gets technical. Wrestling a 600-pound adventure bike through a rock garden is a real physical challenge, even for experienced riders, and when a lighter middleweight handles that same terrain with noticeably less effort, serious off-road riders take notice. Some will reasonably choose the lighter, less expensive option, which puts direct pressure on the profit margins KTM's flagship lineup depends on. Number 2. Kawasaki Versys 1100 dealerships generally try to avoid significant overlap between models in their own lineup when two bikes from the same manufacturer effectively do the same job at different price points. The cheaper option tends to win out. In 2027, Kawasaki is expanding the displacement of their sport touring platform to create the Versys 1100. It features a substantial 1099cc inline-4 engine, delivering strong, naturally aspirated horsepower, comfortable upright ergonomics, and the same radar-guided adaptive cruise control found on more expensive models in Kawasaki's line. The complication is that Kawasaki already sells the supercharged Ninja H2 SX, a sport tourer priced above $27,000. The new Versys 1100 offers a large percentage of that same touring capability, strong passing power, and an identical electronics suite for considerably less money. For most sensible touring riders, the practical case for paying a significant premium for forced induction becomes difficult to justify, next to a naturally aspirated alternative offering nearly the same real-world experience. Superchargers are genuinely impressive technology, but for a lot of buyers, keeping several $1,000s in the bank account ends up winning that particular comparison. If this list has you reconsidering a purchase you were already planning, drop a comment below with which bike on this list you'd actually buy. We read every one. Number 1. CF Moto 450 MT. The entry-level adventure segment has been a fairly stagnant pool of overpriced, under-equipped machines for close to a decade. Established Japanese brands have generally offered basic, heavier dual sports with limited suspension at premium pricing, largely because there was little pressure to do otherwise. The 2027 CF Moto 450 MT changes that calculation significantly. CF Moto built this around a 449cc parallel twin engine, featuring a 270-degree crankshaft and uneven firing order that gives it some of the low-end traction and exhaust character typically associated with a V-twin. It produces 44 horsepower, but the chassis specifications are really what stand out here. The 450 MT comes standard with fully adjustable kib suspension, offering 8 inches of travel, tubeless wire spoke wheels, folding dirt-oriented mirrors, a genuinely large TFT display, and Bosch ABS that can be disabled on the rear wheel for off-road riding. By comparison, established entry-level options like the Honda CRF 300L Rally and Kawasaki KLR 650 generally come with simpler, non-adjustable suspension and more basic instrumentation. CF Moto is offering a twin-cylinder, genuinely rally-capable machine with premium-feeling components at a price point well under $6,000. When new riders compare the raw specifications side by side, the CF Moto comes out ahead in most categories while costing less. And that's a difficult conversation for any dealership relying primarily on brand loyalty to move entry-level inventory. The spec sheet ultimately doesn't account for legacy. It only accounts for the numbers in front of the buyer. 14 motorcycles. Budget bikes that remove the need to ever upgrade. Electric platforms that quietly eliminate service department revenue. Manufacturers from outside the traditional hierarchy matching established specifications at meaningfully lower prices. And in more than one case, brands now finding themselves in direct competition with their own flagship models. None of this comes down to clever marketing. It comes down to spec sheets and pricing that are becoming genuinely difficult for any showroom to argue around in 2027. If this breakdown gave you a clearer picture of where the industry is headed, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and click the next video to continue the ride.